How hard is it to survive Squid Game? The South Korean Netflix series known as Squid Game has taken the entire world by storm with its simple premise, engaging characters, and its fascinatingly unique game design. But one of the most immediately appealing aspects of Squid Game, just like Hunger Games and Battle Royale in the past, is how easy it is to imagine yourself in the same scenario and wonder about how well you'd do. That's the appeal of setting up the Squid Game's rules so clearly. Not only so that you clearly understand what the characters you're watching are doing and trying to accomplish, but so that you can fantasize over how you would approach the same twisted scenario and try to figure out what's the best option is before the characters themselves figure it out. It's the same appeal as a good mystery story or whodunit, when you have those moments of the light bulb in your head going off before the protagonists, and for many people it's the appeal of watching entertainment such as this. So today, let's take a look at the deadly premise of Squid Game and just how difficult it would be to survive the entire thing. Now, Squid Game initially begins with 456 volunteering players, meaning that if everything were equal and we just looked at things numbers-wise, you would have a 0.22% chance of winning. Not exactly the greatest odds, but I suppose still better than the average lottery chances. However, the difference between Squid Game and any usual competition or game show is rather obvious. If you lose a challenge and are disqualified in Squid Game, you are immediately executed. No second chances, no do-overs, just a couple bullets with your name on it. Only people absolutely desperate for the massive amounts of prize money would sign up for a competition where the odds are so stacked against you, but that's the initial trick that the organizers of the game use. They don't tell the players that disqualification is fatal until after the first game of red light, green light. If people were properly informed about the full risks of playing Squid Game, many would likely have turned down the offer. However, due to this deception, the very first round of Squid Game might be its most dangerous. In the show, over half the 456 players are killed in the very first game when they panic at the surprise death of the first disqualification. Literally hundreds of people are mowed down by the turrets supervising the game of red light, green light as they try to make their way back through their entrance, completely unaware that this is part of the game itself, not some random attack that's interrupted their chance at making millions of dollars. The choice not to tell players about the fatal consequences of failure before the game begins is obviously a shock tactic, but it also works out for the designers of Squid Game. The first game, red light, green light, is all about bodily control and mastering your impulses. The original version of the game, in its non-violent form, is already a balancing act of maintaining composure during the red light moments and making as much progress as possible during the green light moments without it affecting your capability to slow down and be ready for the next red light. The sudden surprise addition of violence to the equation tests if the players will be able to maintain focus on the actual rules of the game in the face of extreme danger, a skill that will be incredibly essential in all of the games to come. To succeed at Squid Game, you need to not just be able to focus and compete well at a children's game, you need to be able to focus and compete well at a children's game while every few seconds a loud gunshot rings out next to your head or someone dies just in front of you for failing to stop at just the right time. Many of the people in the show only survive long enough to grasp what they need to do to get out of the situation, aka keep playing the game, because they're initially frozen in terror at the realization of just how high the stakes are. The designers of Squid Game also knew that freezing for too long would be an issue, however, and allotted only a 5-minute timer for the entirety of the red light, green light game. If you don't move often enough, or simply go too slowly, or just never moved at all, hoping to trick the game's very creepy looking sensors, you're simply shot dead at the end of the 5-minute countdown. The designers of Squid Game deliberately designed this first round to weed out anyone that would have zero chance in any of the following rounds, but that doesn't mean that the next rounds ease up on the danger. Even if under half of the original 456 contestants survive the first game of red light, green light, with 201 people surviving the game shown in the first season of Squid Game, you still would only have 0.5% of a chance at winning the entire game. The game immediately following red light, green light is the honeycomb game, and its reliance on tracing out a specific shape out of extremely brittle candy would be difficult even under ideal circumstances. Tracing out the exact exact cookie shape is a very delicate process, one that would be made far, far more stressful by the additional threat of guns being aimed at every player's head. This is especially panic-provoking as some of the honeycomb candies are much less complicated to trace out than others, leading to jealousy and potential confrontation. Combined with the frequent and sudden gunshots as other players potentially mess up, this task would require even more focus than the previous game. You're no longer trying to maintain control of the big actions needed to run across a field, but the tiniest precise detail work on an incredibly fragile object. Each subsequent round of Squid Game is like this, adding a different twist or expression to the already heightened idea of maintaining intense focus on a simple goal while deadly consequences surround you. The third round is a team-based tug of war, adding physical strength and teamwork to the requirements, while also taking place suspended above an ominous death pit and adding to the stressful situation. Even seemingly more calm games, like the marble test, in which players are allowed to come up with their own games, as long as someone is still able to collect all the marbles, come down to utilizing creativity under pressure and potentially taking advantage of or manipulating the relationships you've built up over the course of the previous games. The goal seems to be to have as many variations on the same basic concept as possible. This way, someone who is physically strong or has a unique advantage in one way might not have as much of an advantage in the next game. Somehow preparing for the Squid Games would be much more difficult as a result, as you would need to be skilled in several different areas as opposed to being fully committed to just one of your strengths. On top of all of this are the threats you'd need to worry about outside of the actual games themselves. With so much prize money on the line and the threat of death a very real possibility anyways, the possibility of being preemptively murdered by another competitor is pretty likely. Even if you personally weren't willing to take out opponents to gain an advantage in the actual games, you would still need to be prepared for the possibility of other players attacking you and defend yourself or set up alliances accordingly. Outside of the box strategy would also be a key part in staying alive for the entire duration of the games. You can't win the final round if you don't survive the night to make it there. This is to say nothing about all of the psychological trauma being in such a nearly hopeless situation, isolated from anyone you know, would do to you. All in all, you would constantly have to be on alert. Only one person can really win in the end. At the end of the day, it seems like we've reached a new era in pop culture. One where Squid Game will be talked about and used as a reference point just as often as other survival stories in games such as Hunger Games, Battle Royale, and even Fortnite. It takes a lot to create a new twist on a familiar concept that takes the world by storm, but if Netflix's viewership numbers are any indication, Squid Game has done just that. So do you think that you'd be able to survive Squid Game? Let us know down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video as well, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons to keep up to date with everything on the channel. I've been Josh Busker, and this has been Life's Biggest Questions. Thanks for watching.